And do hang out.
Funny stuff, but I try to do my best. And there's also at the end of it a participants list that's like part of the PDF. So hi Gabe.
Could you just say, where did this photo come from?
Randy, you wanna? Well, so one of the things that I was hoping for is that people would send me stuff, and a lot of people did, which was great. And Randy sent me a couple of photos of the land on the way in, and I thought it was a really beautiful picture, but also just a really nice way to start the slideshow about, you know, just grounding ourselves in where we were coming and where we are now. So that's the next couple of slides are Randy's images. Let me know if I'm going too fast or something.
Me too.
So I don't know if it reflects your experience. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but there you go.
I can't believe you have that done already.
I can't.
If I were
either.
running this conference, you'd be all receiving that in 6 months.
Hey, you're not going to run the next one then.
Well, I think that part of it for me is important is that, you know, maybe, I don't know if we have time to talk about it, but, you know, if it actually reflects people's experience or not. Because I think often we leave with, you know, documentation of what's going on without really time to resonate with it or not, you know? So for me, that's part of trying to be responsible about doing that kind of work, you know? That last bit was pretty hard to try to capture, but like, you know, for me it was just important it's there, you know, that there's some element of some of the discussion that happened and what came out and the tensions and the difficulties of this work. And so even if maybe that doesn't capture it like in a way that is totally sensical, hopefully when you look at it you'll be reminded of the conversation that we had and some of the important things that emerged from it. So
Did you get the pictures I emailed you?
yeah, but I didn't have a chance to put them in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is really too bad because they were.
One of Joanne emerging out of
I know. It was really awesome. And there was a beautiful one of the teepee with the light coming through.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry for people that I had a lot of stuff that I was working with, so I do apologize for stuff that didn't get in.
I'm amazed that you did this and put this all together. I've not seen a documentation like this, and just, that's great. Thank you for the gift of this.
Yeah.
The only things I I've seen in the past are like boring reports, you know. This is wonderful to have pictures and words and questions and possibilities expressed in this way.
Oh, good.
A lot of the reports that get written up about events are not written up for us. They're written up for who we imagine it will matter to.
It was something like, first, I also just wanted to really quickly say, I'm really sorry I didn't mention this before, but Gabe has been so awesome. And we love and so I didn't have a camera, and so all the photos on there that aren't yours are his. Every single
your
photo
guys.
are his. That like so, and he's just been so generous and a wonderful, wonderful person to work with. So I just really wanted to say thank you so much.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say was thank you to you individuals, you know, like in the work, like that is skill and talent, you know, and it's like the little people, like, you know, you guys like you after watching this, like, wow, great. You
I think that when we have someone taking pictures, when we have someone documenting process, very often there's an expectation that they're passive observers, and our recorders, in this case, have not been passive observers, and I think that's made a really valuable contribution to this process. I appreciate it.
First of all, thank you, all of you, for everything. It's been a huge journey, not just 10,000 miles, but, well, it will be 10,000 by the time I get home again, but just a huge journey. Working with the young people again was fantastic, and a lot of eye-opening things here, so I've really got a lot out of this. It's been very challenging, and I was under no preconceptions that I was doing anything else but coming into a situation that was going to challenge just about every bit of me. And I am an emotional man, so this will affect me. Warren took me out to play tennis last time, and I stopped playing tennis on days after this in my hometown at Totnes, because I just smash everything up. So it's not a good idea for me to go out. But I've learned a lot, and it'll take me a long time to assimilate it, and worlds open up. And I've told some people, so I'm just going to say this. At the time that I felt most at home, and I don't know, I just have to open this up, is when Randy did the smudging here, and it took me right back home, which might be a paradox, it might be an appropriation, but it's there in my home. So, yeah.
Been a journey, huh? Yeah. There have been moments of confusion, moments of anger, moments of being really tired, moments of absolute joy, and moments of sadness. And that's a journey all by itself. And it's something that means something. If this had been a typical conference where people had stood up and talked in a room full of people and presented papers, I would have been bored to tears. And those hard moments, those challenging moments, those moments when there are questions that are not easy to answer, or challenges that are not easy to encounter, make this worthwhile because they give a sense of direction. That is, this is something, if someone is uncomfortable with the process, that's important, it matters. We must find a way to address it. And just knowing that is important.
A few years ago, I was looking in a dictionary for the French root of the word research, and the translation was to travel through while searching. So this has been a travel. Not sure what I'm searching for. I have taught and worked with youth and with adults around being an ally, and you don't get a lot of resources on how to do that, and you get a lot of pressure of not being an ally, and it's a reminder, this weekend has been a reminder of the continuous learning I'm engaged in. A reminder, it's an experience that's a reminder of the journey that I'm continually undergoing. Humbling experience. You know, when I work with students, they think I have all the knowledge, and I try and tell them I don't, and try and embody that knowledge emerges in our work together, and this is a reminder of that happening as well.
I think that the word lazy just is a really a word that I'm going to lead with, and I honestly, I don't mind being lazy. Sometimes, like, I could be in better shape. I can work out more, but I mean, I guess the point is, like, you know, the word lazy, like, I'm not saying that because I think it has to be this heavy word, actually. I mean, it is and it isn't. For me, it's just about, you know, what does that mean in terms of my own, like, why are we here? And I think that, like, the youth the first night seemed to really, like, that was it in terms of everybody feeling the most connected, I think in part because that's why people are doing their work. And I don't know if I always think about why I do my work in terms of, like, for who and when, which leads me to a how I do it. So it's been really good to be reminded of laziness in that. It's also kind of hilarious that other people, it's exciting to think about how to self-remind myself of laziness going forward too. So it doesn't always have to come from other people.
I just wanted to say that we speak about the youth as though they're one body, and that we know who's youth and what youth, and I would like to move to youths, even if it's, I don't know, Aboriginal youths. I mean, I know we're in Aboriginal context, but youths, and I'd also like to say that one of the things that sort of makes me feel funny about saying the youth or having the youth present is not only that it should be youths of different kinds, but amongst Aboriginal peoples, but also that we have to own our responsibilities to the generations that come before the youth and the unborn. In that context, I guess I come out of sub-Saharan African worldview where the unborn and the ancestors are in a circle and they're with you, and so when you speak about the youth, you can't sort of abstract them from that circle. And so keeping the parts of the circle that are not part of the youth but are part of the youth visible is always a complex challenge, and I enjoy thinking about that.
Thank you to everyone for sharing and being vulnerable at times. And I feel like there was some tension, but throughout this whole weekend, everyone stayed. People were present the whole time. No one dozed off or anything, to my knowledge. I feel like I'm only just beginning to register some of these very profound experiences, and I look forward to reflecting more, days and years to come. So, thank you.
Well, I think I'm the only one here who might. Was anybody else? There was an Aboriginal Mental Health, Canadian Mental Health Commission, their Aboriginal subcommittee had a meeting in Saskatoon a couple of years ago. they had an evening thing in the, there's a woman, Maureen Boulanger from Illacrosse. She's a Métis community. She's a fluent Cree speaker, or Cree Chip they talk up here, and she's a teacher, but she's also a comedian, and she, what the heck is the name of, she has a character she plays, this old Kokomo grandmother with a headscarf. And so there's a bunch of researchers, like what you were saying, Lauren, and she come out and she says, she's always talking to us, the grandchildren, no samak, wah, no samak. Research? You're a researcher? You research? You mean you searched the first time, you couldn't find it, you have to come back and search for it again? Research? A few years ago, I opened my birthday present, or my birthday card. My husband always gives me a card, he's such a sweetie. And there's a gift certificate for a tattoo, and I never had a tattoo. And I'm like, honey, I'm over 50, how come you're giving me a tattoo? He said, well, you're always looking at the kids' tattoos, so you like them. Like, because he watches these things. Like, I got one time a gift certificate to go up on a hot air balloon, because apparently I said I always wanted to do that. So I said if I ever said I wanted to go skydiving, I'm not turning myself on a gift. If you give me a gift, you know, I never give away gifts and stuff. So I got this. I don't know if I saw, some of you have seen this. And this is kind of who I am. You know, this is the flag that was flown at the Battle of Batoche. I figured if I was going to get a tattoo, it had to mean something. I wasn't just going to get a butterfly marched or something. But this that was the spirit of the wolf in the hand of the people to protect them. That was, and it said in Micha French, actually. It's in the home at the altar, freedom above all. But instead of that, I put my Indian name, pre-syllabics, which I was given quite a long time ago, or didn't seem that long. But anyway, Iskwayat Kawaska Pikaskwayat, which is woman speaking. Pikaskwayat is serious talk, and in a circle, or for the circle, or cross circles, which felt to me like giving me a responsibility. Like when I came here 25 years ago as an older undergraduate student, mature admissions, just finished upgrading, had a bunch of kids, I didn't know I was going to stay and do this work. You know, like, who knew? I just wanted to pass. And so the education, the privilege, the responsibility. So I'm here as a servant of my communities, and the education is a responsibility, and this name apparently was attached to this rather large and active mouth of mine, to use it in a good way, to, like, research to me is service. I don't see how university divides research from service. If my research is not serving the needs of the community to transform it to a better, healthier place, then what the hell am I doing? And I know we've had all kinds of ups and downs and backwoods. I also know, as a researcher in a university who's occupied some strangely high places, that for those of us who are in the Aboriginal community, this is, I think we all know we have to do this. For those of you who aren't and choose to, you could have picked a heck of a lot easier way to make your name and fame, you know, as researchers. Way easier stuff. I know that, but that you didn't. You want to help be allies and repair the history. I honor you for that. Except
if I could be really honest, when I first came, I wasn't really sure why I was invited, and I'm not really sure I'm sure even still. But I'm very thankful to have been invited. And I think it will, I'll think about it for a long time, and I'm glad to have connected with everyone, and I'm glad that the questions have been put forward for us to consider, and that we don't necessarily have brilliant answers. That's great.
Well, mostly that I'm really looking forward to continuing many of the conversations, or all of the conversations that we started here this weekend.
I was going to say, Kit, that I've never seen this a documentary before. At the end, I thought, oh my God, how we've had this sort of various, like, tense and important conversations, and is this going to be a bunch of pictures of us smiling and laughing and dancing, you know? And so I was so grateful that it wasn't. So thank you so much, and I was really grateful for those difficult conversations. I mean, I think we all together can join in, at least I can imagine many of you, how angry we can feel that there aren't more Aboriginal students in our classrooms, that colleagues sitting next to us working together, you know, and changing things. And, you know, we all know why, and we know the powers in whatever position we have to encourage whoever it is that we're brought in contact with, and that it's painfully not enough. But I'm really grateful for this chance to be together, and thank you.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed meeting so many new friends, people, colleagues, future colleagues, I hope. I think we still have lots of conversations to have, so I'm interested in seeing how they evolve, and I know that many of these conversations will be continued among smaller groups of us for quite some time, so I think that's really important, and finding a way to connect and support each other so that we can further the field, because if we're having these tensions in here, like, imagine what it's like out there where nobody, it's not even safe to even raise these conversations. So, you know, I'm grateful that people stuck through it.
The organizers, and obviously Kit and Gabe for doing a fantastic job. And thank you for inviting me and for creating this space, and also for creating the space to speak about some of those tensions that have come out through the week. I think if there's one of the things I've learned in doing this work is that, you know, tensions exist, and it's not so important really to resolve those tensions, but it is important to sit with those, and it is important to talk about those. So I just wanted to thank you and to thank all of us really for giving us that opportunity to speak about those and to sit with those.
I was thinking about, someone sent me a quote a couple of years ago that's had a lot of power on me, and I'm sorry that I'm not going to get the quote exact because I can't do that, but it's by an Australian Aboriginal woman named Lila Watson, and I bet a lot of you have seen this, and she said, if you've come to help me, you're wasting your time, but if you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us walk together. And so I hope I can internalize the lessons and help them take that back for liberatory work.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a significant, important meeting that needs to continue. And I also thank you for the reminder about the Aboriginal Academy and how sparse it is. It's an important point that I think we need to bring to this discussion as well. There are some really, a number of people here have touched me over the weekend in profound ways, and I think you know who you are, and I'm going to pass with that and see you next time.
I'm gonna apologize because I might not stay for the rest of the circle because my son's out there waiting for me. Thank you everyone for receiving me and inviting me here, and having my family here too, which is really special, and also to the First Nations people for the land that we're on, to have this meeting. I'm going to take away with me what it means to be a consensual ally. I've never heard that term, so I'm really glad. When I first started working at Miywaywin Lodge, my colleague's husband, we were sitting and waiting for a sweat lodge. We were getting ready for the sweat lodge, and I was sitting there kind of like, what am I doing? And he goes, so why do you want to work with Native people? And I was like, I honestly think I was chosen from some weird winding path, and then is that consensual? I don't know. So I'm wondering, was this a two-way choosing? And I feel like it is, and I feel like I'm bound up. And the other thing I've learned in my work is that art is ceremony, and that it shouldn't be given away in a trivial way. We bring art from our heart. And sorry, it was very emotional because I wanted to bring my art into the circle, and I felt like I had trivialized it, and it wasn't in ceremony. And I feel that art is not a technique, it's not a method, it's not some innovation or intervention, it's your heart, it's ceremony. And that's what I've learned in the First Nations community, that it's a spiritual practice. It is not to be trivialized, and it's not to be given away to people and we share it like clothes, changing it. People put their heart on the lines to learn a practice and to live that practice. And then when we share it, we have to share it with sacredness. Because it took me a long time to accept that I had that gift to share my art. And when we bring it to the youth, because they have that sacredness and they're important, because when they know that they can create change in the world, they know that they are important. It's not a method. We're not making videos to put on YouTube. We're helping people understand that they're important. And if we don't believe in that product or that way of doing things, then we're just doing an activity. So I'm hoping that the way we move forward is that we move forward in ceremony, whatever that means for anyone. I've adopted it from the community that I worked with, but in my own cultural practice, you know, it's being present with your ancestors and what they've given you. And I found that when I talk to people in the community, that's the same thing. That it's like when I talk about it, it's like where, you know, I'm Chinese from Vietnam, and we have similar practices, and it's amazing when we exchange. We pray to our ancestors, and they're always with us. And we feast them, and we don't do the same things, but we do similar ways. So thank you, and I hope that we can keep on sharing.
Although there were times this weekend that, you know, different people felt that their needs weren't maybe being met or anything like that, I sit back and I look at every individual in the circle and those who've had to leave already. And we may walk away from this circle not realizing what we're walking away with, or that we're walking away with anything. If we walk away with even just an ounce of discomfort, an ounce of displeasure, an ounce of the unknown and the question of what I was doing there, then we've walked away with growth. Because growth only comes from within, from the displeasure, from the uncomfortable feeling, the unknown. That's our growth. If we sit in a circle and we become complacent and we become very familiar with who we are, with our practices, whether it's arts-based research or whether it's working with Aboriginal youth, when we become complacent, that's when we are no longer growing. So anyone here who walks away and you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable and really unsure, walk away knowing that you've made a major, a major step towards personal emotional growth.
So I also want to acknowledge, as a visitor to the territory, the land and the ancestors that we've been here today. I want to acknowledge our elder, and I also want to acknowledge, people like you, Joanne, who we just had a quick conversation about you being, you're still sexy, but still being raging and sexy when you were younger. And I think a lot about how it was, our elders and women like you who allowed me as a young Native woman to have my voice and be angry, and I acknowledge that. And I think that's why I feel the need to keep speaking up, because of the legacy in the past you've left for us. So I take that as a responsibility. And I want you to know that too, Rosemary, that that when we talk about 7 generations, I think that's that's a global Indigenous understanding and teaching. It's the 7 generations who have allowed us to be here today, but it's also those 7 generations we have to think about, and they're always with us. And I'm so grateful that our young one was here with us this weekend, and I think it's it's not an accident. Things don't happen by accident. Things happen with purpose. And I think that's also the part of having to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I realized that I kept saying consensual ally, and I have people like Sarah reminding me to start writing my shit down. So I do. If it's helpful for folks, I have some stuff that's written, and we've done workshops and stuff on consensual allyship. So if you want those resources, I'm happy to share them. Although I do think less and less that we don't need allies, we need people to struggle with us. So that's always, I was kind of reminded about that this weekend. And then the only other thing I wanted to say was that as much as we need, as it's good to sit with the uncomfortable, we need transformative action. I heard that's also a research method, transformative action research, AKA getting shit done. So I think that's, we have to leave here recommitted to action, to doing something about it. And I like this quote by, I think his name is Daniel Quinn. It's like, the world will not be saved by old minds with new programs. The world will be saved by new minds with no programs at all.
I don't know, I guess I want to say, Miigwech, thank you for being my great ally and pulling me to the table to be coming here to feed myself. Since the moment I stepped in that doorway, I didn't know what my role was, but I knew that I was given an invitation, and to honor that and to see what journey that would take me on. So going through different stages of uncomfortableness, because out of the box for me type of stuff, getting real close. I came here and I actually, felt really purposeful. I just want to acknowledge, the powerful spirits in here and the love in everybody here. I see that. Even though there was discomfort, challenges and barriers, from my perspective and what I viewed, I see the goodness in people. And that's what I'm going to take home with me. So I came here and fed myself not only physically with all the good food out there, but boy, feeding myself with the love of community and people that I would never think I would sit next to or, have an experience with. So I just came in here with no agenda at all whatsoever, and just let it all take its course. And Yeah, thank you for letting me come in here and be a part of it, and thank you for letting me share my video as well as a part of your couple days that you've gathered. And hi. Because hi means not only yes in our ways, it means hi means yes in Japanese, I found out.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Oh, I'm feeling quite full as well, physically and emotionally and spiritually. So thank you, everybody, for being here, for sharing your gifts. Whether they were challenges, whether they were spiritual gifts, whether they were words, whether they were drawings, whether they were ceremony, it all, I just think of doing research in the community and just how this, we can kind of reflect in some of the challenges we face in doing arts-based research, where we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I just think it's a whole package that I embrace. So thank you for all of it.
I too just want to say thank you to all of you for allowing me to be a part of this circle. And thank you, Joanne, for inviting me. It's nice to meet all of you, and just want to all of you have to say, so thank you again.
I just want to echo the thanks for the invitation and for being privileged to sit in this circle with all of you. And I'm taking back with me a tremendous sense of being gifted by all of you, your words and your ways of being and your challenges, to keep thinking about how and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and to just bring a mindfulness to that and to my responsibility to whatever communities I'm involved in. It's a deep gift that I think I'm taking away. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, Joanne. I got to read those emails when you send them out because I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was working at, I'm a placement coordinator at First Nations University. I place all our teachers, and now I got to go supervise all of them as they're out there now. I'm training teachers, so in which case, yeah, reading those emails, like, I would get like one every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can't read them all. And the one I had to read had to do with the agenda and everything. I was like, okay, what the hell's going on now? And then I showed up, and I didn't know much like other people who showed up. Okay, what the hell's going on? And then my wife said, well, okay, I want to see this puppet show that you read on Thursday. I was like, okay, you can come and take a look. And then she was totally taken by the youth, right? Because that's what she does. She's an elementary school teacher. And I myself was, like I said, a high school art and Native Studies teacher. And doing my master's and, well, starting my master's, not really done yet, but when it's done, I know this is what helped me. And I'm going to ask this of every one of you who work in the communities out there. You know that there's young First Nations men that are worthy of getting to this level. And you know what worked for me? When I was 14, 15 years old, it was my school teachers who said, you can go further, as they tapped me on the shoulder. And that's what they got to be doing. Like, if you want to be out there and getting that kind of information to them, you got to do that yourself. I wouldn't have listened to a research assistant back then. It was a doctor that actually tapped me on the shoulder and said, you will become a doctor one day, and you should think about that. And of course, me being a stupid Indian boy, I guess, nah, I'm never going to be anything but brown and useless. Never happened, though. People kept constantly saying, do it, do it, do it. And like I said before, there should be 20 more. But they're not here because of the institutions that we set up, or I wouldn't say we, I can't blame myself because I'm Indigenous, I didn't set up the institution. But I am a part of it now. So what is my responsibility to my people? And then everybody, I say my people, I say Nahel, Lakota, and all that translates this to a human being. I'm responsible to everybody else. So in which case, I don't just teach First Nations content to First Nations kids. I teach it to the 70% or 80% that are not, because they need to know. And if you don't have that knowledge, look for it. just because you're a PhD, does that make you any better than anybody else? You know, I used to tell that to the students. So I got a BA in that piece of paper can't stop a bullet. You know, that's just the way it is. So you put that on your chest, can't help. I bring up all those violent things because that's the way I was raised. You know, I may sound very nice and speak this English language and whatever. You know, I know the violent side. And I try my best not to remember that because, you know, I moved on. So in which case, be helpful and go out there, be responsible to the communities that you're from, and take action yourself sometimes. You have to be there to understand. As I said, the researchers are the ground level people. We're in the trenches and we see what's going on and they ask us those questions, the communities ask us those questions. It's like, well, why aren't they here? Their name's on the damn paper, how come they're not here? I don't know, I can't drag them out of their office. And that's the way it's got to be. So being present and being there, I think that's what it is the communities really need to see. You want to talk about allies? That's what it is I see. So I don't want to be a preacher or give you a diatribe or whatever, but just have you understand that. Like we see things as Indigenous researchers, we do. And it's kind of like, well, are you still doing the same old practice or are you going to change it? You know, that's what it is we want to do. So that's all. Excellent.
I'd like to thank all of you for bringing me to this new area, which I did not have much idea about, and used to working more in a lab situation, trying to gather knowledge for the sheer pleasure of knowing stuff. And this is actually comfortable. This is what I do. Get a bunch of subject, give them computers, press a few buttons, and find out wonderful stuff. And I've been doing that, if you haven't realized. I was actually carrying out my own experiment. No, I'm just No, for the first time I wasn't carrying out any experiment or not trying to manipulate any variable, even if it seemed like that. But yeah, I did have a lot of confusion, and what I'm leaving with today is a lot of questions, and I love questions because that tells me what I can do next. So I really feel very enriched, and I not only have the questions, but I think I also have tools to then look at it. So there is definitely growth, as Wendy was mentioning. I think my creative brain is growing a wee bit than my analytical one, and I think I'm going to enjoy that.
I thank you for coming, but I also want to say thank you just because I work in the office every day with Joanne. So I see all the ins and outs and the ups and downs and all that kind of thing. And I know that just from getting to know Warren and Tony and Linda and Joanne, that this is something they are so passionate about, and the projects that they've worked on for years. And I know that it just fills them with so much joy to have you all here. So thank you for doing that, and then you make my life a little bit easier because then Joanne's happy.
I'm reminded that allied is not an identity. Aspiration to allyship is a series of committed actions, and it's about the actions that we take away and commit ourselves to. And I think one of the things that I'm leaving with is emergent from people's methodologies and things I've learned from people in the course of the weekend, and some of the tensions in the room, and some of my own just self-reflexive questioning. There's a real fire in my belly, like an embodied, a feeling of desire to catalyze the work that we do, like to use that as inspiration to do the work in a better way, right? And to constantly be seeking better ways to do the work, so that it is potentially transformative, and to be listening, you know, to be aware of the moments when what we've become comfortable with isn't necessarily comfortable for others or for those that we're working with. And so I'm really grateful for that, and I do want to continue these conversations, and it's been great to get to know some folks that I didn't know already, and it's always wonderful to see those that I do know from other times in this circle. So travel safely, everyone, and thanks for having me so much.
Okay, I'll say it. It occurs to me that where injustice exists, it is incumbent upon all of us to actively oppose it. To fail to do so is to be complicit in that injustice.